Welcome to the Conscious Living Podcast, conversations to educate, empower, and enlighten our world. An uplifting and inspiring series of conversations and talks with your host, Jackie Woodside. We are educating minds, empowering lives, and enlightening souls to create a world where love prevails. In this engaging podcast, we deliver exciting, positive, transformative talks and teachings designed to elevate your life. Now, let's join our host, Jackie Woodside, for this week's session.
Hey there. I'm so glad that you're here with us for another episode of the Conscious Living Podcast. I'm Jackie Woodside, the founder and the host of this weekly event. Thank you so much for joining us today and for checking in with me from time to time on this podcast, listening to the conversations that I generate with authors, speakers, coaches, thought leaders around this very crucial topic of what does it take? What does it mean? How do we live life more consciously? So I want you to know I appreciate you. I see you. I just know that the more any one of us grows in consciousness, all of humanity changes. So today I am bringing to the Conscious Living Podcast an author and an entrepreneur and a coach, a mentor, somebody whose body of work is very near and dear to my heart, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. Karen Baines is a conscious wealth mentor. I love that. A conscious wealth mentor. She's the founder of the Conscious Wealth Code. And for over a decade, she has worked with ambitious, passionate entrepreneurs, showing them how to understand their energetic language of money and leverage it in their lives. Isn't that great? Karen's body of work heavily draws from the notion of alignment, as does mine. So I'm looking forward to having that conversation. Karen, welcome to the Conscious Living Podcast. Anything else you want to say about yourself so people can get to know you a little bit?
No, I honestly don't know how to follow that. Thank you for inviting me, Jackie. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Well, we should add to it.
That's one thing I can say. I'm in England. I'm in the UK.
Yes, I was going to say we should add that you're from the UK, because people, my American audience, will be like, "Oh, wait, what's that accent? What's that accent?"
Yeah, just sort of outside London, really, as the crow flies. So yeah.
Beautiful.
I'm of 5, married for ever, 32 years. Grandmother to 4. Kids.
Oh my gosh, Karen!
All over the world.
I literally thought you were in your 30s. So,
oh my goodness, thank you.
Wow, you look incredibly young. Now I want to have the podcast be about your skincare, not about your money alignment and conscious mentoring. Now let's dive in. So, Karen, what was your path that led you to be interested in and curious about conscious money and conscious wealth?
Oh, what a great question. It all happened very organically, Jackie. That's where I want to start with it. From a very young age, I was very interested in personal development, not so much spiritual. I didn't really have any clue what that was, but I was very aware at a very young age regarding money, where there was seemingly a chasm between the have and have-nots in my actual family, between my mother and her siblings. And I was very aware of that very early on. And as I said, I was drawn to personal development very young. I mean, by the age of 11, I was looking at books and things like that, and my own personal development from a place of, why am I so unhappy? I mean, that's really where it came from.
Wow.
With no real reason to be that unhappy, just always knowing there was something else, like an inner knowing that it just wasn't meant to be this hard. That was, I think, the earliest memories I have. And then, as I said, I'm a mum of 5, so fairly early on, I had children and married, had children, and I was still on this personal development journey. Once I'd had my youngest son, I fell into a situation where I was introduced to the world of bookkeeping by my then accountant. And that's where my financial background kind of started to develop. And all the while there was this other version of me. So I started my own business, bookkeeping, and it was successful. It was wonderful. I loved doing it. But at the same time, there was like this other version of me that was following this path more of personal development, went to a more spiritual avenue, if you like. I learned about universal law, and obviously came across law of attraction was the first universal law that I stumbled across in my journey. And all the while, I was trying to keep these two versions of me and my world completely separate. But what was happening was I was looking at people's accounts. I mean, I was dealing with people's money every day in my business, and their accounts and their receipts and all the things that they were doing, they just started to light up like a Christmas tree. And I knew why these people weren't making the money that they wanted to be making or needed to be making in their businesses. And I've always been very much about connection as well in my life. I like deep connection. So I'd be speaking to people about their accounts and finding that I was, again, I just had this knowledge as to what was going on. It really, a lot of the time, didn't have a lot to do with their actual businesses or their actual money. There were other things going on. And eventually, as much as I tried to keep these two parts of me very separate, I brought them together. It was like the universe was like, no, you need to merge the two. Have the courage to walk away from the bookkeeping and really just focus on this other version of you and what you're meant to be doing in the world. And that all sounds very simple and that it happened very quickly, but it didn't. It was over a period of time, but eventually I gathered the tools to develop myself and my own skill set. And hence the earliest version of what I do now was born.
Beautiful. Wow. That's a really lovely path. And I'm still marveling at the fact that you've raised 5 children. That's stunning. So how did you develop like what your body of work was going to be? So you'd been studying personal development your whole life. You got into some of the spiritual laws, law of attraction. You had a background in finance, money, wealth. So that was, that's clear. But how did, you centered your work around alignment. So say a little bit about what that is and how you develop that as a central component of your work.
Again, very organically. And kind of what I teach as well through the alignment is that you go every time you go through what I call a vibrational shift, which is available to everybody every 3 to 5 months, you have an opportunity to up level that what I call frequency. And there are new things available at these higher frequencies that aren't available at the lower frequencies. Now, when it comes to alignment, the clearest and simplest definition that I can use for my purposes when I'm working with people is the definition of alignment is you do you, unapologetically, 100% of the time with love. And often that love actually starts from a place of self-love versus love for others. And those are the nuances of alignment.
Let me interrupt there for a minute, Karen, because that's a phrase that gets used a lot. How do you understand self-love and how do you help your clients know whether or not they are engaged with it?
Value. Understanding value. I work with 3 commodities of alignment. my conscious wealth code, my body of work, as you previously mentioned, is based on the alignment of money, time, and you as the person that I'm working with, you as yourself.
Okay.
And it all comes down to value, and the commodity of you is really important because that is where the self-love comes up a lot. It's how you are assigning value to yourself in a way that is being broadcast to the universe, which is where like the universal laws are. Like that's my interpretation. So I work predominantly with 3 universal laws. I mean, the universal laws are infinite, right? But I work with 3. I work with the law of attraction, the law of polarity, and the law of circulation. And when it comes to self-worth, it's about understanding from a place of frequency that the universe is always saying yes. So that's the law of attraction in and of itself. The universe is always saying yes. But it's saying yes to the frequency at which you vibrate. So people talk a lot about mindset and all of that. I kind of put a pin in that in my work. And I look to get my clients' heads out of that space and think about themselves more from a place of frequency. Because when it comes to money, if you look and think about what money actually is in our 3rd dimensional human world, money is designed so that we can spend it on that which we value, right? But it's energy just like everything else. So the universe is saying yes all of the time. But if money represents value and is over here vibrating a frequency of value, and you as a person are over here vibrating a frequency of not value by not acting in a way that is self-loving, that by not doing things that are coming from a place of self-love, by devaluing yourself in your relationships with others, maybe. Or, I mean, I predominantly work with entrepreneurs, so devaluing your place in terms of what you're worth and what your body of work or what your body of work is worth in the world. So not charging high enough prices or fees for what you're doing in the world. By spending time doing things that you don't really want to do, so you're devaluing yourself and time, which is the other really powerful commodity, such a powerful commodity when it comes to alignment. If you're devaluing time by spending time doing things that you don't want to do, and you're actually vibrating at a frequency of obligation, you're not a match for money, because money is over here vibrating freedom. Mm-hmm. So it's about understanding, my work is about understanding those nuances, but it's actually very simple. It's very simple when you understand alignment through the commodities of money, time, and you. You understand how the universe always says yes to what you're doing, but it does that through the language of money, the language of the universe, which is frequency and not thought and not feelings. And evidence tracking. I work a lot with evidence tracking with my clients and my people, so that they can literally follow their conscious creation. I call my people conscious creators, and they get to master by following their evidence every single day of whether they're in alignment or not, and if they're not in alignment, what they need to do to shift course.
Karen, you're speaking kind of high level. So can you give me example, like, so right now you've just said, it's evidence. So people look every single day to see what the evidence is and whether or not they're in alignment and what they should do to shift. So what does that mean? Look every single day. What are they looking for? What kind of evidence? If they see evidence that they're out of alignment, what do you have people do to bring themselves back into it? Let's use a concrete example.
Okay. So, let's say, for example, that you're not making the money that you want to make, right? And someone comes to me and they're doing all of the things. They might even be doing all the things that they used to do that used to work. But the evidence in front of them is, I'm not making any money. There's like, the money isn't flowing. Now, money, just as everything else in a human being's world, is I say it's a happy byproduct of alignment. So if you're in alignment, money will come. Okay? And you can switch out the word money for anything that you desire. If you're in alignment, anything and everything you desire will come.
Relationships.
Exactly. Exactly. But if it doesn't come, and you follow the same premise, if it doesn't come, then you're out of alignment. So your job in this world is alignment, and you can track how the universe is saying yes. Now, if you're out of alignment, you then need to understand where are the places that you're out of alignment. So a very simple step, and probably the most powerful step that I take my clients through when they meet me is, I'll say to them, okay, well, where are you ignoring money? Because this is the way the universe will respond and react to you ignoring money. The universe will say yes to you ignoring money. So we ignore what we don't want. Human beings ignore and don't deal with what we don't want to deal with. But the universe will read the frequency of you ignoring money and say, okay, well, if you're ignoring money, you clearly don't want it around. So there'll be no money for you to deal with. So I have my clients immediately make a list of everywhere they might be ignoring their money, from checking their bank accounts, especially if they're entrepreneurs. It's super important. We don't get away with as much as people that are working for somebody else. But it could be that someone's been thinking about hiring a bookkeeper or accountant. It could be something as simple as, your phone contract is up and you've been thinking, oh, I'll definitely go and have a look at a better deal on a phone contract, or I'll speak to somebody about it and I'll switch over when I've got time. But you haven't made time to do it. That's somewhere that you're ignoring your money. And everybody's ignoring their money somewhere all the time. And the universe will accumulate that. It will just keep saying yes to you not wanting to deal with your money. And it will say, okay, there's no money. There'll be no money for you to deal with. So that's kind of how it works in terms of how the universe says yes to what you're doing and the frequency that you're vibrating at versus your thoughts.
And yeah, no, I find that really interesting. I teach there is a correlation between your thoughts and emotions and the vibratory pattern that you live in. So what creates frequency then in your...
Yeah, well, the frequency is created by... It's there already, so it's not essentially created. It just happens at a different level, is the way I see it. So the way I explain to my clients how thoughts and feelings work is that they are the human beings, so they're our barometer, if you like. Our thoughts and feelings are for us, so that we know how to navigate and create our lives. And it's when we're doing something when we're actually doing something as a human being, and how we feel about the doing that creates the frequency. So the universe doesn't read the feeling, it bypasses that. That's the human being's mechanism, if you like, to understand what course they need to take. But whatever course that is will have a frequency. So let's use obligation as an example. If you are looking to make money, if you're looking to have money in your life, there will be a reason why you want that money. Okay? But many of the people I speak to, the reason they want more money is because they want more freedom. So on an energetics, from that example, money and freedom vibrate very closely. They're like best buddies, actually. Money and freedom vibrate very closely on an energetic scale. Because when you've got money, you've got freedom. The more money you have, the more freedom you have. Okay, so if somebody wants more money, but what they're doing in their lives is obligation. So if you look at obligation from the perspective of anything you have to do, you've got to do, you should do, must do, that's obligation. It just naturally vibrates at a frequency of obligation, because actually you're a human being and you have free will. So at a very base level, there are a few things that you have to do. But we spend a lot of time in our lives like shoulding ourselves. And any time we're doing something that we believe we have to do, we're vibrating obligation. That's how we feel about it. That's that heaviness we feel every time we need to go and do something. That's the frequency. So we feel the feeling, but the universe doesn't react to the feeling. If it reacted to the feeling, it would know that we don't really want obligation because we don't like it, right? But instead it says yes. It's not saying yes to the feeling. It's saying yes to the frequency of the feeling. And then it brings you more obligation, because that's how the law of attraction works. Like attracts like. So if you're vibrating obligation over here, the universe reads the frequency of obligation and says, here you are, Karen, you clearly enjoy and want more obligation, otherwise you wouldn't be doing it, right? The universe doesn't have any concept of polarity. It just says yes. Its job is to say yes. That's the law of attraction. So it reads the frequency of obligation, assumes you want more of it, otherwise you wouldn't be doing it, and then in drops more obligation. And before you know it, your whole life looks like a have to. You're in overwhelm, you're confused, you're exhausted, and you're still following the breadcrumbs of obligation because that's what's coming up, and that's how you operate. It becomes a pattern. And then before you know it, you've got no money and you've got no freedom because the universe has said yes to you doing obligation.
Yeah,
So that's the way I interpret the human with its thoughts and its feelings. And that's where people fall down most, Jackie, as well, because they don't realize that happy thought thinking, if it's not how you genuinely feel about something, doesn't work with the universe, because the universe just says yes and it bypasses all of that. So it's about teaching my clients often, well, where is the obligation that you're doing in your life? If we can at least detox obligation as much as possible so that the universe has got freedom to react to and say yes to, that's one way that you're going to open your money channels, because that's what money represents. Does that? clear that up? Does that help?
I understand your teaching. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate the example. So one of the ways that people can shift and bring more money and increase the flow of money in their lives is to shift from obligation to freedom. What are other ways that people can, right now today, create some shifts that would help them increase their financial flow?
Well, absolutely. The example that I used first of all, anywhere you're ignoring money, you must
Ignoring money. So check your balance, your debt, know what your debt level is, be on top of your financial life. Yep. Get your head.
Absolutely get your head out of the sand, even if it feels like a have to, because this is the interesting nuance. One of the interesting nuances around the energetics of money. What happens is the universe says yes, right? So every time you do something, the something has a frequency and the universe brings you more of that. Some of the things we have to do in our lives feel like have-tos, but actually they are trumped by the frequency of responsibility. Now, there aren't many responsibilities that a human being has to take care of, but when it comes to your finances, if you think of money as an energy, it vibrates naturally at the frequency of responsibility and power. Okay, before you spend your money, it's naturally vibrating responsibility and power. Okay, so if you're not taking responsibility for your finances, particularly if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur, you are just being irresponsible, because we are designed to create wealth and money by adding value. Again, that word value, by adding value to the lives of other people through our gifts, right? So if we don't know what's going on with our money, we are almost in violation of our values, because we're saying, on the one hand, I value money, that I want that energetic exchange of money through service, but I don't value money enough to know what's going on with it, where it is, etc., etc.
Okay.
So that's a responsibility that we have. And even if you're not a business owner, if you want more money, it serves not to ignore it, because then you're taking your power back and you're being responsible with your finances. You're then vibrating responsibility, and responsibility actually trumps obligation. So that's how that works. So even if it feels a bit uncomfortable to go and take care of your money, you're being responsible, you're stepping back into your power, which means that you will vibrate money, and the universe will say yes and bring you some more.
So great. So great. I love this. Anything else, Karen, that you want to add before we wrap up for our listeners? And also, you want to be sure you tell our listeners where to find you.
Oh, absolutely. I haven't really talked much about time.
Okay,
I really want to highlight time for a minute, because it's the biggest point of leverage that you have. Time is the most wonderful commodity that a human being has, and you can totally leverage it. So one of the most important ways that you can leverage time so that you're broadcasting, I am available to receive more money, is to detox your life as much as you can of obligation. So have a look at all your have-tos, got-tos, should-dos, and must-dos, and stop doing the ones that you don't really have to do. Start there. Look to do more freedom, more things that feel like freedom, that look like freedom. So the universe can say yes to freedom and bring you more money, so you can spend it on more freedom. So it's very important to understand the frequency stuff around time, and that is the biggest That's like the biggest pitfall that human beings have, especially when they're very heart-centered and loving people, and they tend to overgive, which that is in opposition of self-love when you overgive. So take a look at that as well. Boundary work is important when it comes to broadcasting value.
Beautiful. I love that. So, Karen, people are going to want to know more about you, maybe have a consult with you. Where's the best place for people to reach out and get in touch with you?
Right. Well, they can reach out on Facebook Messenger for sure. That's kind of where I hang out most. I wouldn't say I'm on Facebook, but certainly if you come and find me on Facebook Messenger, just shoot me a DM. If you go over to my website, which is www.soulwhispers.uk, they can sign up for my newsletter and my money alignment assessment, and they can fill out a free assessment, and I'll get back to them with steps on how they can shift their immediate situation to flow and more money and more of everything they want, actually.
Sounds like a fun assessment. I love that. Karen, thank you so much for your wisdom and your generosity. It's been a really lovely conversation about conscious wealth. I love that. So appreciate you being here with us.
Thank you so much, Jackie. It's been an absolute treat. Thank you.
You're welcome.